This is Scott the Fix-It Guy. Today we're dealing with a Wolf range that has a surface igniter that isn't working. It's not lighting the burner. This is the front burner, which is pretty common. This is what the burner looks like, and the 20mm Venturi nut, and also the igniter. So first thing we'll do is make sure we have the range powered down, unplugged, or disconnected from the breaker. I'm going to take off the grates. The one that's given us trouble is this front left-hand burner. But I'm going to take off all of the burners because I want to remove the black enamel drip tray. I'm going to use a 22mm socket. And this will help me release those 22mm brass Venturi burner nuts, and that'll let me get the burner off. I really only need to work on the front left burner, but the wire has fallen down into the area below the drip pan, so I'm going to need to remove the drip pan. And to do that, I'll need to remove all 4 of these burners. So I'm going to remove the 22mm nut on all 4. And this should, on this type of stove, that should come off pretty easily. If the nut isn't moving, you might want to use a little bit of break free or some type of oil that will help loosen up the threads. These actually came off really easily. This is what the nut looks like. So you got them all spun off, and then I'll spin off a couple more here on the back. And I just have to reach down and get a hold of the wire that goes to the front left burner. So I'm going to pry up. I'm going to pull that burner up, but see the wire is falling down into the drip tray.
We have two. So we have a 30-year-old daughter and then a 19-year-old son. So we had a big gap. He's home for summer vacation, but he's going to head back up to Davis.
Just taking a look at the old igniter.
That'd be fun.
The porcelain had broken
really
on the old igniter underneath the electrodes. So the electricity was jumping out too soon. So you have to replace this with a new igniter. And I'm going to lift up on the drip tray, just putting something into like a pry bar to help me lift it up. I just got to get it up maybe 2 or 3 inches so I can reach in and grab the wire and push it back up through the drip pan so I can hook it up to the igniter. There's the burner.
No, I have to sign up for your clubs.
So I see the wire. I'm going to reach in there, just push it up through that hole. There we go. I'm going to get the drip pan pushed back down into position. And then what I'll need to do is get the old igniter off of the burner. And to do that, I have to use just a small standard head screwdriver. And I have to remove this little circlip. We can see it depicted here to the right of the igniter. I've got to reach in there with a standard head screwdriver behind it and kind of pry it out. And then once I get that off, it will release the spring that's holding the igniter in position, and I can slip out the old broken igniter. And then what I'll need to do is put the new igniter in, and then put the new spring back over the igniter. I'll have to compress the spring a little bit with my fingers, and then slip the circlip into the slot on the porcelain igniter. It's about maybe ½ an inch. So I've got to push the spring way in, compress it, pop in the circlip, and that'll keep the spring in position, and that'll keep the igniter in position. I've got to make sure that that circlip sits all the way down flat before I attempt to put the igniter and the burner back into position. Otherwise it won't fit into the little hole for the igniter in the drip tray. So you have to make sure that that circlip is pushed all the way in. So normally you don't have to remove all of these burners like I did. I just did that because I had to get to the wire. I'm going to push the wire now the spade connector up into the igniter so it engages the spade connector. I got to make sure that's really solid. And I'll push the igniter and the burner into position, and then I'll screw in those Venturi nuts, 22 millimeters, for all four. I got to make sure everything's lined up. Again, normally you don't have to remove all four. You can just remove the one nut on the burner that's going to be the one where you replace the igniter. I'll get these tight. You don't have to get these super tight. Just maybe a quarter turn beyond finger tight. And then you got to make sure that the burner caps sit down nice and flat. Otherwise, you won't get a good ignition. The reason you want to get these kind of snug is you want them to push down so no gas can escape before it comes out of the middle of that Venturi nut. You need it to come straight up. If it escapes early, then you get a little bit of a fire prior to the burner, which you don't want. So putting the burner caps back on, there's a little slot on the burner, and on the burner cap there's a little concave piece that allows it to sit really flat. So testing these out. It's all look good. One on the front right has a yellowish flame, so that air fuel mixture is kind of messed up. The other ones have a nice blue flame, which is correct. So if you wanted to do just the one burner by itself, here's how you would do it. Take off the burner cap, unscrew it with your 22 millimeter socket. This would be in an instance where the wire has not fallen down into the drip tray. Get your new igniter in position, put your wire back in. Again, make sure this wire really sits in there tight. It's really locked in on the spade connector. You would push it back into the drip pan so it sits down nice and flat. Put your Venturi nut back in. Just screw it down to hand tension, and then give it about a quarter of a turn more with your 22 millimeter wrench. There we go. You can get these 6-sided wrenches and also 12 sides, but the 6-sided one would be better for this application, 22 millimeter. Put the burner cap back on. Just take your time here. Make sure that this sits down flat. A lot of times when these won't ignite or it doesn't burn well, it's just the burner cap is not sitting down flat and the gas is escaping too early. So I want to get it nice and flat. There we go, good ignition, so that's working great. Put the burner grate back in position. Back one light's good. Front left light's good. Back right looks good. Front right looks too yellow, so that needs to be adjusted, the air fuel mixture. And that can be done underneath the drip pan. And then the far right ones, back and front look good. Nice blue flame. So that's how you can replace the igniter on the Wolf range. Here's the part number on the little invoice here if you want to get a new igniter. And it would probably depend on your type of range and model number, but that's the type for this more modern Wolf range. Here's the old igniter. We can see that the electrode's protruding, but the porcelain broke. Pretty common. So thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe when you get a chance.